Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Be Matt Radio. This introduction is brought to you by Matt from Foxhole Games.
Well, I was going to introduce you, and you guys f***ed it.
Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about today's dev stream. We're looking at Foxhole Dev Stream number 70. We're covering the fall update, which is pretty much better support for long wars. The backbone of this will be new weaponry and better resource management. It's important. With every change in the game, players must remember this.
One thing I do want to stress is that a lot of this stuff is a step, right? It's not going to fix everything. It's not going to make everything perfect, but we're hoping that this is a step forward, right, in some of those goals.
That's right, a step-by-step approach to a more perfect game in the future. The devs want to achieve a smoother war progression with fewer stalemates.
Because the wars are longer now, the grind tends to be a bit longer. I mean, we want to try to make adjustments in the game so that players are feeling progress on a more frequent basis, as opposed to just these long grinds to try to take a town, and then you either take it or you don't, right? Mm-hmm. We want to make the world a bit more like granular, so you are feeling like you're making progress more often, but I'll get to that.
This means they want a more rewarding progression system. If players make the best use of team resources, both material and human resources, they will have a more rewarding experience instead of the heavy grind because of the use of those resources. Let's talk about the game's economy and the balance changes proposed by the devs in the DevStream 70. No more production parts. Now we can make a single tank for an operation instead of 5 tanks. This change will reduce the extreme grind down to a reasonable grind. Mark will explain.
Now, our whole reasoning behind making players make 5 at a time was for a few reasons. One of those reasons is that we want to push into the idea of sort of longer term planning, making things in bulk as we do with the items, but there's going to be another route that we're going to take in accomplishing that goal. And right now, in the meantime, what we want to do is we want to give players back the choice to just make a single tank if they want to.
The developers are working on a better method for producing bulk vehicles and items. Production parts were just a test/step in the game's progression. These next changes are huge. Sulfur has been removed from certain recipes like tank shells and howitzer shells. A 30% increase in crude oil mines. This will lead to an increase in petrol production for tank usage on the battlefield. Also, mortars and howitzers now have multiple ammo types that do not include sulfur for production. This is huge. Mark gives some insight on these massive changes.
We don't want to take away the strategic aspect of the resources. We want to add choice so that if you're not hooked into that part of the game, you don't feel like you're missing out on these things that you used to have, which again has been the thing we've been hearing so over and over again, is that all the fun stuff that I used to do is no longer available. We want to add back some of that fun stuff, but do it in a way where there's choice.
Giving players choice. Fantastic. The half-track will receive a health and damage buff, the light tank will receive a health buff, and the landing APC will receive a major health buff. Mark, tell us why.
These vehicles are not worth their cost. Right? So
let's make it worth it.
Yeah, let's make it worth it. I do want to mention that these are not the only changes coming, because I don't want people to see this and be like, oh, that's it, right?
Yeah.
I approve of these changes, and I'm sure the community will approve of them as well. Mark gives a summary on the changes.
The barrier to entry is too high for something like a tank. So now you can see here, to field one tank, you no longer need 700 refined materials. It's only 140. You don't need the extra step. You don't have to go to the construction yard. You don't need a flatbed truck. You don't need a crane.
Yeah.
The ammo can be produced from salvage.
Yeah.
And there's going to be 30% increase in chance of getting fuel for your tank.
Somebody hand this man a drink. I believe he's earned it. These changes sound like a developer that listens to the community. The community has spoken and the developers are providing. Next up, Logitowns. Oh my God. We needed this like yesterday. The current towns are pretty, but they don't function well. Small stone fences, they block the flow of traffic. Facilities seem to be placed in questionable areas, and super small roads, like really tight roads, built just big enough for one truck to pass through. Matt has personally redesigned certain towns to improve logistics. Matt, tell us why.
Long story short, I really want to improve the usability of these spaces because I think that they are the most high traffic areas and they cannot be cramped. You cannot be getting caught on little props. You cannot be dealing with flow of traffic in a bad way constantly. It won't work. So that's the goal there.
I agree, Matt. Great job. The next change is stockpile related. Crates now have an icon to show what's inside as well as a mouse tooltip. Just hover your mouse over the crate while inside the UI, and the tooltip will give you details on the crate. Mark, how does this work?
Basically showing what's in a crate, showing the limits on how much can go into a stockpile, and also showing the quantity of items inside a crate. They're all small things, but they're important things that affect the day-to-day operations of a Logi player.
Indeed, Mark. These are quality of life changes that affect Logi in a positive way. Logistics is the lifeblood of the game. Without proper logistics, the game will stall. We're also going to see changes for the inventory, resource tabs. With these changes, you can switch between your truck inventory, personal inventory, and factory inventory without leaving the driver's seat. A great improvement. Mark, tell us, what's the most important thing about this change?
The most important thing here is the resource containers at the refinery, right? So that you don't have to submit them and then pull out the raw resources out from the refinery and then resubmit them back in, right? You can pull straight from it. So, again, this is the thing we've heard a million times, right? Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. I'm loving the changes so far. Matt, tell us about the home region tutorial map and changes made to it.
There'll be a lot more tools for player training. So if players want to run boot camps and stuff, there's so much more available now that you can actually cover as opposed to what there was previously. And some of the roadblocks that were in the way are now gone.
I welcome this change. Helping new players is very valuable, and I think this is a great update to the game. Now let's talk about new features. We're getting new artillery ammo types. The howitzer, mortar, and field artillery will now have ammo types that do not require sulfur or components. Mark, the types, please.
You can see all the types there: flare, smoke, shrapnel, green ash, arm piercing, heavy explosive.
You mean we're getting flare rounds for our mortars? No way. Matt, tell us more.
Basically, when you fire the flare, it is going to illuminate. Not only is it going to illuminate nighttime, but it is also going to illuminate people who may not be in your normal line of sight.
Our howitzers are getting smoke rounds. Wow. Just wow. Please, the details.
One of the main features of it, obviously, is it's gonna cover a huge area with smoke, which will turn off the AI defenses, or rather, the AI defenses won't work in there, and
players won't have line of sight.
Players can just charge in and get into a little bit of a melee battle, or at least a close range battle. Shotguns, anyone, will be quite useful in this. And they will cause a bit of damage as well. So it's not just smoke. It's actually useful as a little bit like a normal howitzer shell, but it just won't be as powerful against things like structure.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And green ash howitzer shells? What's up with that?
One of the things that we want to do is always keep the combat fresh, right? Mm-hmm. And making sure there's new ways to fight and sort of making sure that things don't remain static for too long, right? So this is going to be another one that's pretty cool.
Mark was sort of whispering about that last bit with the green ash howitzer shells. I think he's going to hear some heavy feedback on this change. Grenade and green ash grenade spam is currently meta for the game, so adding howitzer green ash spam is going to be insane. I can see it now. Gas mask filters will need to be buffed after this change. Matt, please, tell us about the last few artillery ammo types.
They're very similar to the tank
Yes.
variations. So if you know how they work, expect it to be the same, but from a mortar and a field artillery.
Yeah.
Great. That's our new shells, all with low cost and high spam capabilities, so make sure you're ready. Things are certainly going to get interesting. I think these are great changes, but they may need some buffs in other areas, like the gas mask filters, to bring balance. The developers seem like they're attempting to balance the power of the mobile assault, like tanks, using long-range artillery rounds. I'm excited. I can't wait to see these changes in action. Finally, guys, finally, we're getting the most powerful feature in the game. The troop bus.
This was a fan favorite of the relic vehicles, and we also felt that troop transport is an important part of the game. It's not necessarily some vehicle that everyone is going to use, but we definitely saw the relic bus being used to great effect several times in the game. Players like to play as like the shuttler of troops to the front.
All right, guys. More seriously, last but not least, they changed the spawn system. Players will now have a better spawning experience because of the new player-driven home-based system. No more spawning on some abandoned building just to have to run for what feels like 10 straight minutes toward the front.
Players can fast travel to where there are troops, right? So it's like this abstraction of moving troops around the map, right? Yeah. So if you want to be able to get, sort of move your like army somewhere, you have to actually walk there. You station yourself there, and then slowly over time, more players are going to be able to fast travel.
Wait, what? HB, what the hell's going on here?
So the idea is that you cannot just magically, just because one guy got one region,
exactly,
one single soldier or two soldiers got one region, suddenly 60 people can travel magically from home base. The idea is that those numbers will have to grow slowly by adding more players and saying, okay, you traveled here, so this is your base now. Oh, there's more players in this base. This base is more important. Therefore, more people can travel, and it's a compounding effect.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I got you. Wow, these are some great changes, guys. I want to know what you guys think about these changes. I think the changes are great, but they'll take some time for players to adjust to them. I hope the green ash doesn't kill us all, but until then, I'm Young Lion, and this is BMAT Radio.